the virgin birth of the Son of God. It's going to be an inquiry into the trustworthiness of the Scriptures about the origin of Jesus of Nazareth. We want to examine the Scriptures closely to determine exactly what they mean. Now, these are the claims of critics who say that the New Testament does not really teach that Jesus was born to a virgin mother. Matthew, they say, lists Jesus' ancestors down to Joseph as his father and calls Jesus the carpenter's son. Mark's Gospel, they say, is silent about it. Luke's Gospel has only 2 verses about it. It calls Jesus the son of Joseph, speaks of Joseph and Mary as his parents, and of Joseph as his father. John's Gospel gives no account of the virgin birth and calls Jesus the son of Joseph. In Acts, they say, the virgin birth is not preached, nor is it mentioned in the epistles. These are claims of people who say they believe the Bible, but claim the evidence is weak for the miracle of the virgin birth, and it is more likely that Joseph was the human father of Jesus. So it's very important that we do find exactly what the Scripture says. This is from the genealogy given in the first chapter of Matthew, beginning with Abraham, going through 40 generations or so to get to Joseph, including King David and the kings of the house of David for some 400 years. Note the careful phrasing of this verse compared to previous verses. It does not say that Joseph begat Jesus, in contrast to the rest of the genealogy, where in each generation father begat son. Instead, the name of Mary, placed between the names of her husband and son, shows Joseph was not his father. Both Mary and Joseph were descended from King David. Why does Matthew list ancestors from Abraham to Joseph? Why bring Joseph into it at all if he's not the father? Well, the answer is that kingship is inherited from father to son. This genealogy is Jesus' legal claim to David's throne, because he was the accepted son of Joseph, who was descended from David. Now you might think that in this case it would have to be a right established through Mary, but in fact Mary had to marry someone, as she did, of the tribe of Judah, because if she'd married out of that tribe, Jesus would have been born into another tribe, unable to lay claim to David's throne. This record in Matthew continues and gives us details about the birth of Jesus Christ. His mother Mary was espoused to Joseph. Before they came together, she was found with child of the Holy Spirit. Then Joseph, her husband, being a just man, not willing to make her a public example, was minded to put her away privily. So, what does this betrothed mean? Well, among the Jews, this was stage 1 of becoming husband and wife. They did not live together until after stage 2, which was the wedding ceremony, which made them married. Neither betrothal nor marriage could be dissolved except by a formal putting away, a written document. Alfred Edersheim gives details of those things in commenting about these verses in Matthew. And we see that while Joseph was thinking about what to do in this situation, he had a dream in which an angel of the Lord told him, "Don't fear to take unto thee Mary thy wife, for the conception in her is by the Holy Spirit." So we get these details. Before coming together with Joseph, Mary was with child. Joseph knew he was not the father because they hadn't come together in a sexual way. But being just and kind, he intended a private separation. Now verses 18 and 20 clearly state that the child was conceived by the Holy Spirit. Without this power of God, it is impossible that a virgin should conceive and bear a son. But as it says in Luke's Gospel, with God, nothing shall be impossible. The God who made heaven and earth is able to cause a woman to become pregnant in a way not possible in nature. The record continues with a reference to a prophecy in the Old Testament. This is what was said in the prophecy of Isaiah, spoken of the Lord by the prophet, "Behold, a virgin shall be with child and shall bring forth a son." Now, why is Matthew quoting this? He is quoting it not to prove the virgin birth, because he's already established the facts about that, but he is quoting it to show that Isaiah was here fulfilled, and the Jews were very much influenced by quotations from their scriptures, and so that's important for Matthew to keep on referring to things that were written in the Old Testament. Now, it has been argued that the original word used by the prophet didn't mean a virgin, it only meant a young woman. And we can see, if we look closer into it, that the Hebrew word Alma is always used in the Old Testament for an unmarried young woman. It's used 7 times in the Old Testament. Rebecca, Isaac's future bride, is described by that word and also by the word for virgin. Miriam, Moses' sister, is described with that word Alma when she was only 9 years old. And the other instances are young maidens that are mentioned in the poetic books. So there's not much point in arguing about the meaning of that word Alma, which in any case, when it was translated into Greek, used the Greek word for a virgin. And the record continues to say that, having heard from the angel, he took unto him his wife and knew her not till she brought forth her firstborn son, and he called his name Jesus. So here we have the facts. Jesus was born. Before that, Joseph had married Mary. Jesus was born while she was still a virgin. Now in the 13th chapter of Matthew, we get an incident in which Jesus is referred to as the carpenter's son. And in that picture there, we can see what would be in the minds of the people that knew Jesus as a boy. He would be working with his father, and so when he, in his ministry, came into his own country, they were astonished, because they said, "How does he get this wisdom and do these mighty works? Is not this the carpenter's son? We know his background, and yet he's doing things which are completely outside of our expectation. So he was called the carpenter's son, not by Matthew, but by the astonished people. Now, late in Jesus' public ministry, we get this record in Matthew 16. He's speaking to his disciples and he says, "Who do you say that I am?" And Peter gives this wonderful confession that you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answers in this way. Now, here we have in Peter's confession that Jesus is the Son of God, Jesus answered, "Simon, son of John, my Father has revealed it to you." Jesus is deliberately contrasting Simon, son of John, the flesh and blood relationship, with Christ, the Son of the living God, the relationship peculiar to himself. The virgin birth entails conception of a child by the Spirit of God. Thus, when Jesus claims to be the Son of God, or calls God his Father, he witnesses to the virgin birth. We move on to Mark's Gospel, which was claimed to be silent about the subject, but in fact the first verse says Jesus is the Son of God. Now, this Gospel has no genealogy, and that is because Mark presents Jesus as a humble servant who is always working. Now, servants have no pedigree. Now, although there is no genealogy to tell us details of Jesus' origin, Mark doesn't ever call Jesus the son of Joseph or the carpenter's son because he hasn't given the story of Jesus' birth. And note this contrast with what we saw from Matthew's account. This is recording that same incident where the people that had known Jesus as a boy were astonished at how wonderful he turned out to be. And they said, "Is not this the carpenter?" Now, this is entirely consistent with Mark's purpose to always present Jesus as a worker. Now, near the end of his ministry here, we get in Mark chapter 12, this conversation where Jesus is telling the scribes a question they can't answer. How say the scribes that Christ is the son of David? Well, David himself said by the Holy Spirit, "The Lord said to my Lord, sit thou on my right hand, till I make thine enemies thy footstool." Now, in that statement there, which is in Psalm 110 verse 1, David is referring to his descendant as his Lord. He was inspired to do that. Jesus is David's superior, his Lord, because he has a higher ancestry, being the Son of God, according to the covenant God made with David. And when we see some of the details there of the covenant God made with David, as recorded in 1 Chronicles 17, we see that it refers to a descendant of David, and God says, "I will be his father, and he shall be my son." These details confirm the virgin birth. The Messiah is more than son of David. He is Son of God. Now, here's another reference from Isaiah's prophecy which shows that he has more to say on this subject. Compare the quotation from Isaiah with the verses from Luke chapter 1. And you can see that this being formed from the womb and conceive in thy womb is in both those records. And also, the purpose of God raising up this servant is for the benefit of the tribes of Jacob. The prophecy says to raise up the tribes of Jacob, and Luke's account, which this is what the angel told Mary, he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever. So they're obviously talking about the same subject. And Isaiah's prophecy is talking about a man, God's servant. See, some of these prophecies about the servant of the Lord, there's quite an emphasis on Israel and Jacob, but here it's obviously a man because he is going to raise up the tribes of Jacob and restore the preserved of Israel. Now notice it says, though Israel be not gathered, yet shall I be glorious in the eyes of the Lord, and my God shall be my strength. Well, this is a prophecy of exactly what happened to Jesus Christ. Israel wasn't gathered at the ministry of Jesus. Remember him saying, O Jerusalem, how often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathers her chickens under her wings, and you would not? So Israel's regathering is something that has only been happening in modern times. Nevertheless, the gospel was taken to the Gentiles by the apostles, as it says, I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles. So these things are prophecies relating to Jesus Christ, and the way the New Testament indicates to us, these things are going to relate to the Son of Mary. Then Mary said unto the angel, How shall this be, seeing I know not a man? How can a woman conceive a child without a man? That's her question. And the angel's answer is, God's going to do it. The power of the highest shall overshadow thee. So what's going to be born of you shall be called the Son of God. Mary asked the angel how she can conceive a son, and has answered that the power of God is sufficient. Now the critics said, well, there's only 2 verses, we could leave them out, but you can't leave them out. They are in the manuscripts and provide meaning to the next verses, where it refers to her cousin Elizabeth. She's already 6 months pregnant, and she had been barren, for with God nothing shall be impossible. Mary's barren cousin has conceived. God can do whatever he wants. And Mary said, Behold, the handmaid of the Lord. This is how she agreed to what the angel was proposing. Behold, the handmaid of the Lord, be it unto me according to thy word. And that's when the angel left. Now, 2 messianic psalms refer to the handmaid of the Lord and are applicable to the experiences of Mary's son. Here they are. Psalm 86:16. O turn unto me and have mercy upon me. Give thy strength unto thy servant and save the son of thine handmaid. And Psalm 116 verse 16. O Lord, truly I am thy servant, and the son of thine handmaid. Thou hast loosed my bonds. How much do you think Mary knew about the Psalms? Well, actually, she was a spiritually minded young woman. In her song of praise, there are 14 quotes from the scriptures, including 7 from the Psalms. She knew the Psalms thoroughly. And Jesus' thoughts are revealed in the Psalms. The 4 Gospels tell us what Jesus said and did. the Psalms tell us what he thought. Now, in those two, which we have called messianic psalms, of which there are many because they have information that expands on the experiences of Jesus and no doubt were a great encouragement to him. The 86th Psalm says in one of its verses, "Assemblies of violent men have sought after my soul." Well, isn't that exactly what happened to Jesus? And the 116th Psalm, verse 8 says, "For thou hast delivered my soul from death." Well, that's what God did. He raised Jesus again. Jesus, the son of thine handmaid, relied on his Father to save him. Now, when Jesus was an infant, there was this meeting with the aged Simeon, an old man who had been told he would see the Lord's anointed. And he came by the Spirit into the temple, and when the parents brought in the child Jesus to do to him after the custom of the law, so how could the word parents be used of Jesus? Well, Joseph and Mary were the couple responsible for Jesus' home life. Joseph was head of the family. But note that Luke writes in verse 33, Joseph and his mother, and not his father and mother. Luke has already explained the true paternity of Jesus in chapter 1, so he does not hesitate to write parents in chapter 2. Now, this incident is the only recorded incident of the boyhood of Jesus. This occurred when he was 12 years old, and with other people, the family went up to Jerusalem at the time of the feast of Passover. And when that was over, the child Jesus tarried behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother knew not of it. So here we have these terms again. Parents is just a convenient term, and when we find in verse 43, Joseph is not called his father when Luke refers to Joseph and his mother. Now, I'm sure you remember the story. They went a day's journey before they realised Jesus was not with the company. Back in Jerusalem, it took them 3 days to find him in the temple. He was sitting with the learned men, holding his own in discussions, astonishing all at his understanding, 12 years old. And when they saw him, they were amazed, and his mother said unto him, Son, why hast thou thus dealt with us? Behold, thy father and I have sought thee sorrowing. So here's the occasion in which Mary referred to Joseph as Jesus' father. It was natural for Mary to refer to Joseph as father when speaking to a boy of 12. But note how Jesus' reply puts the matter right. Joseph had authority in his own home, but he was not to come between Jesus and his duty to his true father. Like many worried mothers, Mary had overreacted, upset at the time she and Joseph had spent searching. In the light of what had already been revealed to them about their son, they should have known where to look. And now we come to Luke chapter 3, where there is a second genealogy of Jesus Christ, and it starts with Jesus and it goes on through various verses and it comes to Adam. Now, In this genealogy of Jesus, his relationship to Joseph is carefully distinguished from all the other relationships of sons to their fathers. The words, as was supposed, show that no matter who may think that Jesus was the son of Joseph, Luke certainly does not. You notice the words, the son, in italics before of Heli. Heli was the father of Mary. Joseph was of Heli, his son-in-law. We know that Heli was not Joseph's father because we've already been told in Matthew that Joseph's father was Jacob. All the names in this genealogy are male. So by Jewish propriety, Mary is represented by her husband. This is Mary's lineage and shows Jesus descended from David and from Adam, the first man. It's all to do with physical descent in this genealogy. Here's a little snippet because Luke records Mary's conversation with Gabriel and her genealogy. Matthew says Joseph heard from an angel in a dream. He didn't discuss it with the angel. Mary obviously was given greater importance. She actually discussed it with an angel. Here's another verse in Luke where people said, "Is not this Joseph's son?" Another of those cases where the writer is quoting the opinion of others. They express surprise that the one they thought of as Joseph's son could speak such gracious words. And there's a similar one in John chapter 6, where the Jews murmured at him because he said, "I am the bread which came down from heaven," when Jesus was likening himself to the miracle of the manna which was provided for the people of Israel in the wilderness. And they said, "Is not this Jesus the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know?" This is the last mention of Joseph in the New Testament, and it shows the Jews did not know Jesus' origin. John's Gospel begins in this way. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John's Gospel begins with the divine origin of Jesus, who was in the plan of God from the beginning. There is no genealogy to trace a human origin, but a divine genealogy. Christ is portrayed as the Word made flesh, as the 14th verse has to say. "And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth." God's purpose took human form, and what we saw was God's only begotten Son. His unique begettal confirms the virgin birth. No other person was begotten like that. Now later in the first chapter of John, we find men coming and attaching themselves to Jesus as disciples. And one of them, Philip, spoke to another one, Nathanael, and referred to Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. Now this is another quote of spoken words, and it is the normal Jewish way of identifying a person to say, the son of so-and-so. In verse 42, Jesus greets Simon, son of Jonas. This does not mean that the writer or even Philip himself believed that Jesus to be the son of Joseph. It's just the normal way of identifying a person. Philip was convinced that Jesus was the one predicted throughout the Old Testament. We have found him, of whom Moses in the law and the prophets did write. And as soon as Nathanael met Jesus, he greeted him as the Son of God in verse 49. And a later chapter in John has the very well-known words that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. And it continues, if you don't believe that, you're condemned, because you've not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. See, it's pointing over and over again to Jesus' unique origin. That's the reason he is God's only begotten Son. Now, it was alleged that the epistles, not including information about the virgin birth, and whilst they may not use those particular words, we can see the information is there. Romans chapter 1 says, concerning his Son, Christ Jesus our Lord, made of the seed of David according to the flesh, and declared to be the Son of God with power according to the Spirit of holiness. So here again we have Christ's twin descent. Jesus was the son of David according to the flesh, the natural descent, and the Son of God according to the Spirit, because it was the Spirit power that was responsible for the conception. He was also declared to be the Son of God by the divine intervention that raised him from the dead. Now, was this ever mentioned in the Acts of the Apostles? The first preaching of Paul after his conversion is recorded. So Acts is not silent, because straightway Paul preached Christ in the synagogues, that he is the Son of God. And here we have in Paul's letter to the Galatians, where he refers to God sending forth his Son made of a woman. And as those verses show, this is for a certain purpose. Why did God send his Son? He had a human mother, so we could be adopted sons. He was born subject to the law, so he could redeem those under the law. Unless he had a divine father and a human mother, he could never have accomplished this task. With God as his father, he was able to render that perfect obedience to the law by which he was able to redeem all who were held in bondage to it. For his sake, we have been granted a close relationship with God as adopted sons, able to approach him as our Father. Now, there's also things in the letter to the Hebrews. These verses show that the Son was better than the angels. And note the word by inheritance, that this was so. By inheritance, God's Son is supreme over the angels and the rest of creation. No human father could give him this supremacy. Hebrews also emphasises that Jesus is greater than Moses. This man was counted worthy of more glory than Moses. And those verses tell us that Moses was faithful as a servant in God's house, but Jesus, as the Son over God's house, is greater than Moses. Now, the greatness of Moses is emphasised by the very place where this statement is made by God, that Moses is his faithful servant. This is the occasion when Miriam and Aaron wanted prominence themselves, and God rebuked them and said that to other prophets God spoke in visions and dreams, but to Moses he conversed mouth to mouth. Just like the angel spoke to Mary, actually. Wherefore then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? So this was a wonderful closeness that Moses had with God, yet Jesus was worthy of more glory than Moses. Now another one of the letters is 1 John, where it is emphasised that God sent his only begotten Son that we might live through him. John's first letter concerns the relation between the Father, the Son and the believer, which is based on the physical appearance on earth of the Son of God. Only by belief in the true nature of Jesus Christ can we become connected to him and attain eternal fellowship with the Father and the Son. He is the only begotten Son because no one else has been conceived as he was. We see then that the epistles are not silent after all. Each of the four Gospels contribute to the evidence, and the Old Testament adds its witness. The case against the virgin birth has been shown to be hollow and trivial. So what are the implications? God sent Jesus to defeat sin and death in human beings. And in order to do this, Jesus bore human nature from his mother. It was a nature prone to temptation and potential failure. In everyone else, human nature has produced disobedience. He was always obedient to his Father's will. Only the Son of God could have resisted all temptation. And what God was achieving through this, by the obedience of one shall many be made righteous. You see, God is just and righteous and does not forgive sins lightly. He sent his Son to overcome sin. Tempted in all points, yet without sin, Jesus' victory was complete. No other human being comes close to what he accomplished. Only by having God as his Father could he have done it. This means that the virgin birth is an essential component of God's provision for the forgiveness of our sins. And on our part, unless we become united with Christ by belief in baptism, we will die in our sins. Remission of sins is offered through the Son of God to all who believe the gospel and associate themselves with his death through baptism. Jesus died on the cross as the representative of human beings. As our representative, he could be put to death to show the righteousness of God in requiring such an end for a sinful race. But he was not just our representative, the man that had been selected to represent all human beings. He was also an individual of spotless character, and that's why God rewarded him by raising him from the dead and giving him immortality. And in God's wonderful scheme of redemption, Jesus' victory over sin and death can benefit us all. Men and women in Christ have hope of eternal life. We need to accept him, and our hope of life depends on doing his commandments. Hebrews chapter 5 says, "Though he were a son, yet learned he obedience by the things which he suffered, and being made perfect, he became the author of eternal salvation unto all them that obey him." Now finally we've got some building blocks. Each of those building blocks depends on the one below. So we focus first on the lowest, which says the virgin birth of the Son of God. Without the virgin birth there would be nothing to build on. With the virgin birth, God's way of salvation is operating. You see, 12 years after his birth, Jesus indicated what he was about. I must be about my Father's business. And then, age 33, the end of his public ministry, faced with the death on the cross, he suppressed his own will and he said to God, "Thy will, not mine, be done." And as a result of those things, God's dear Son, in whom we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins. That's where we can gain the benefit of all those building blocks. Eventually, the result will be eternal life for a multitude of men and women. The importance of the virgin birth can hardly be exaggerated.